Okay, so some business advice for anyone who wants it. I think Ruger in particular should do this. We need shotguns. Okay, I say Ruger in particular because I believe they now own H&R. And the thing that Ruger should do with their H&R brand is make a black powder single shot shotgun and a 12 gauge single shot shotgun. There's no need for a 410. There's some arguments maybe for a 20. There's plenty of people making 410 shotguns. We don't need another one of those like we need a fucking hole in our head. Right? Go try to buy a single shot black powder shotgun right now. The only one I can find for sale is $800 by Pedersoli. That's a problem. This is something that there should be a $100 version of. Even let's say, hey, the dollar's not worth what it once was. Fine. A $200 version. Like, there should be a sub $300. Sorry. I'm a little sick. Oh, god damn. Anyway, there should be a $300 black powder shotgun, or less. At the same time, really, there should be a $100 12 gauge single shot. Figure out how to make it. That's the market. You know, and this has been our thing throughout history, right? Is we figure out how to make what people need at a price they can afford. That's what the American gun maker's always done. Why is it that in modern America, basically, there's not a single fucking company making a single shot shotgun? This used to be one of my favorite guns to buy. It's $100. Anyone can go save up and buy one. And then once you have one, you can do cool shit with it. Like, go look at what you can do with these in like a Dave Canterbury shotgun. Okay, and now realize that, like, hey, you could make a fucking black powder one, too. That isn't even a fucking gun. That, like, in reality, I don't know which one Dave would actually want worse, but I know he'd want both of those guns. And, like, this is the person that you should be selling guns to right now. Believe it or not, it's Dave Canterbury and myself. We're the crazy fucks that are going to keep buying guns no matter what. This is a stable market for you. The other thing I would encourage Ruger to do would be, they've introduced that black powder revolver years ago that was probably the best black powder revolver ever made. The Ruger New Army or whatever they called it. They need to fucking make an updated version of that. And honestly, they could even just make it exactly like it was, and that would sell. But like I said in a previous video, I think the money on a black powder revolver for the modern era is quickly interchangeable cylinders preloaded with 209 shotgun shell primers and, 44 caliber slugs with a lot of black powder behind it. Ruger is the company that could bring my thoughts to fruition, really. Probably the best. The other one's KE Arms. I'm going to send this video to KE Arms, too. I don't know if they could do anything with a single shot shotgun. But, like, I would like to see what their brain would turn out on a single shot break action 12 gauge for the modern era, and a single shot black powder shotgun in particular. Your competition is an $800 thing from Pedersoli. There is no competition, basically. The real dope thing would be to make a takedown one. Make a takedown survival black powder shotgun. Now we're talking. Because, like, in reality, what do you need survival-wise? You need to hunt small game. What says that better than a shotgun? Okay. And, like, again, everything that you make single-shot shotgun-wise from this point forward, you should make black powder and cartridge and make it to where they can interchange back and forth. Why? Oh, and I would make it to where your frame isn't a firearm, according to the ATF or whatever. Like, I would make my serialized part the barrel. It would solve a lot of that shit. And on a shotgun, that is the most difficult piece to manufacture. I don't know if they would go with that or not. Our ATF is weird on that shit. I would really like to see a takedown survival 12 gauge black powder shotgun, though. Again, this is the sort of stuff that you need to get the kind of world we're going into and who you're going to be selling guns to now. There's a bunch of people that can't go buy a fucking gun. I smell opportunity. I'm a bit of a Ferengi, in case you haven't noticed. Like, I find, at least logic and the rules of acquisition, I found them admirable because basically they're everything that was wrong with me when I was a kid. And as such, I find the rules of acquisition handy because they're pretty much true. They're dark and they're not for everybody. Like, it's for somebody that's going to be living off of their own wits or whatever, like the Ferengi. Anyway, in that opportunity, the thing that I see is we can make several guns that people will actually buy that are modern new guns that use this kind of technology. I know, like, I probably just play with black powder too much. But I started playing with this thing because they said it wasn't a fucking gun. So, you know, if they don't consider this a gun, we can play by them rules. The takedown survival shotgun, I think, is legitimately another good idea. A single shot black powder shotgun at all that costs less than fucking $200 is a good idea. But imagine, if you will, that you made it to where it was breech loading. I know, that's weird, isn't it? How would you do that? Well, remember that Altor pistol? Yeah. It had that little lock-on mechanism bullshit. You make the barrel of this thing like that. Where it's, you know, a straight piped 12 gauge or whatever that basically you put a fucking shock card down and you load from the back with a pistol rod. And then your last step is cranking it closed on that little Altor mech bolt mechanism thing. And your breech face of that thing is a pipe that leads straight to a nipple. I think it could be done. I think this would be very interesting, and this would not use a cartridge. They made the law so that cartridge firing guns are real guns. They made the law so that basically laser guns are really not even real guns. Like, if you really wanted to explore what to do, there's a good idea. Like, directed energy weapons aren't regulated at all. But I honestly think the brass cartridge case technology might be a dead end. Not for all things. It is handy for some things. But I think history is going to remember cartridge case technology along with the flintlock. Like, percussion cap technology on firearms, I guess that was relatively successful. It did last a long time, but the flintlock reigned for like 150 fucking years, 200 years. I think that's how people are going to look at the cartridge case. I don't know what's going to come up that's going to replace it yet. Something. And the fact that I'm turning gears on this shit tells me that other people probably are too. It's not going to be too long before we have a breakthrough in weapons technology as a result of the shit that they've done. My own thoughts on firearm shit is basically total freedom. They can't fucking control black powder. I like that. Like, I don't think every gun made should be black powder. But I think it'd be cool to have a $200 survival carbine out there that was literally not a gun. If you want to get real cray-cray with this, you fucking forget percussion caps at all as an ignition method. And you build a fucking couple of 9-volt batteries into the stock of this bullshit or some shit. That's not what I would do. I don't know what I would do. There's a part of me that says make it a rechargeable lithium ion. The other part of me says make it run off AA's. But have an electrical ignition system that is akin to, you know, a fucking model rocket igniter of some sort, packed into a little fucking hole, like, you know, where the Altor's firing pin was. You'd have a fucking, like, wire running for this ignition system, and basically a giant blue arc would come out of that hole. I think that would be dope. The problem then becomes, you know, okay, so we figured out a carry gun. We figured out a shotgun. We need an assault rifle. I don't know what the fucking black powder version of an assault rifle looks like. But I have an idea. So we made one of these with interchangeable cylinders in our mind already. Right? If you are not familiar with that video, my black powder revolver idea is to make a Webley Mark IV that breaks open and you can quickly swap cylinders between ones that are like this, where they're fucking closed off at the back, and take 209 shotgun primers. For an assault rifle, well, have you seen the Nerf revolving carbines? Isn't that an interesting idea? One trigger rotates the cylinder and fires it. Secondary trigger rotates a second larger mechanism that spins a second cylinder into place. And normally, I think there's one that has 4 cylinders and one that has 2 cylinders. So you make a thing that holds 4 cylinders like this in a mechanism where they all spin. Like, you'd have to have it to where this whole thing could be broken open and they swap out, because on my design of revolver, there's no way to fucking load those. Short of being at a loading bench, really. They're a magazine. They're made to be pre-charged. So, I don't know. You could just make a carbine version of it with 6 shots, but it would be really fucking dope to build that Nerf gun thing with 4 cylinders, where, like, you have one trigger that fires the gun and one trigger that literally rotates cylinders, so that, like, it's Elijah's Wheels Within Wheels revolver or some shit. So we should call it. It revolves each cylinder, and then its cylinders revolve. I know that's a ridiculous fucking idea, but like, that's the idea the Nerf people had. It's not bad, really. It would be cool to basically make the black powder version of my Flex Raider. Like that. Make it like have... I think more than 2 cylinders would be fucking crazy. The prototype one would have to have 2 cylinders. And I don't think it's possible to have the lower trigger just swing the whole mechanism. Like on the Nerf guns, that works because they're made of fucking plastic. Steel, I think it would be better to have a fucking release of some sort, and then you move the cylinders by hand. But like, these are the crazy black powder ideas that I've been coming up with. Like, this is... somebody should legitimately make some of my ideas. Especially on the black powder shit. No one's made really modern, new black powder guns in a long goddamn time, as far as I'm concerned. Like, there's the inlines. That's not really, like... it is, but it isn't. They made that for hunting in, like, the 70s and 80s. It's been a long time since anyone looked at a black powder revolver as a combat tool. In like a serious way. And here's my thing with this gun is basically there's a significant portion of our country right now that this is as armed as they are. Let's do something about that. I think step 1 of doing something about that is making a better version of this thing. Step 2 is a black powder takedown survival gun and a black powder hunting shotgun. Both. Like, you need to make both, but like, you could design... you could... honestly, I think my design for that takedown shotgun, give it a big-ass fucking handguard, and most people would want to hunt with that thing that hunt with black powder shotguns. No more ramrods. They're loading from the back. Literally, it's a shotgun, so you make some sort of a shot card that's what these things use. That's... I'm sure we could just pick one that's already made. And you shove it down the barrel. You pour your shot in the barrel. You tap it. And you put another shot card in. And then you put fucking powder in. And, I guess in loading a shotgun, there's like a wad or something in there too. But you know what I mean. Like, at that point, you should just be able to seal this thing shut on an electronic ignition system and shoot it. Why don't we do that? Why doesn't anyone make that shotgun? That would kind of take the whole buying shotgun shells thing out of the equation for a lot of people. Like, think about what you really need a shotgun for. Why are you dependent on their shells? With the system that I'm talking about making, you could have rechargeable AA batteries. Make your own black powder and cast your own fucking lead balls or buy a bag of shot. Or whatever. And you could shoot this thing for forever. There's a market for that. And like in a takedown survival shotgun, there's a market for that. And in like a double barrel side-by-side hunting shotgun, dude, you would convince a lot of people to start hunting black powder. I think. Especially if you could make the cost of this gun pretty low. And convince, them to make a black powder waterfowl season. You could, like, make this a legitimate thing. Like, black powder deer hunting I don't think that was a thing until like the 60s or 70s or so. And that's when you started seeing those inlines start to, be made. It's probably in the 80s or 90s. I remember my grandfather bought one of those inlines in like the 90s. He thought it was cool shit. I sold that gun for $120 a while back, and I shouldn't have. It was just some CVA. It really didn't matter. But believe it or not, of all the guns I've ever fucking sold, I regret that one. And the main reason is there was a long time where that was the gun that I had. I was a kid. I had that gun and a couple others that I went hunting with. And that was the one that I used the most, probably. It had iron sights on it. My other gun that I used to use for deer hunting was a 30-30 Sears bolt action. It was a Sears 325C. Anyway, I think that there's something that you could pull out of this shit that's usable. And the main thing is, a lot of people don't get how reliable of an ignition system this is. Like, I've had these caps, like, okay. One of my main things that I always had as a criticism for this whole idea was, what if your caps come off? If you have the right nipples and the right caps, I can't get these off. I would have to probably pry them off with a pocket knife. I don't know. I think it's pretty dope. And then you got the whole idea of using a 209 shotgun primer or making shit electrically ignited. The idea of having revolvers with batteries in the handles and just skipping the primers, that's kind of cool too, right? Not everyone needs a military firearm. Like, what we really need, again, like, I'm designing firearms for the new civilian American West or whatever, in a way. I don't know that I'll ever make these or have these made, but like, I kind of hope talking about them on the internet and sending these videos to like Tressa Fagan and a couple other people, like, I don't know, maybe somebody sees merit in some of my designs. A hunting rifle version of this would be interesting too. I don't know exactly how that would work. You wouldn't need a shot card though, especially loading from the back. Again, this is... Black powder guns stopped doing this in the 1600s because they didn't think that it was a worthwhile thing. Those people didn't have our machining technology and our metallurgy. Like, we can make a really, really nice fucking lockup mechanism. Like, I don't know how we're going to make that gas seal. This is one of the areas where, like, the cartridge case makes a gas seal. We can come up with that, though. You could fucking use O-rings. Like, I know that's real basic bitch, and like, they'd wear out and you'd have to replace them. But that is a solution, is behind the lugs, you have fucking O-rings. Either that or, I don't know. it's hard to get past the brass seal portion, right? That was the thing that really allowed firearms technology to advance, believe it or not. Like the idea of an individually contained cartridge, that had been around. People had made those. No one had made one out of drawn brass. And when you make it out of drawn brass, it seals the chamber when it fires. This is the thing that allows a gun to work. And that's where that takedown mechanism for the shotgun might get real squirrely. I put it to you, there's got to be a better solution than fucking O-rings now, though. You could just machine it real tight. That would work. It would wear out. Imagine it being machined so tightly that it's gas tight. It's possible. Like, don't say it's not possible. Totally is. It's just not very practical. And this is one of those, like, this is how I think about things when I make them. I think about what is the very best thing to do, and then I start poking holes into why we can't do that, and start trying to figure out things to fill in the holes. And then eventually, you know, something like a gas seal like that, I'll come to a spot where I just give up. I go think about something else for a while. Anyway, this is my envision of the future of black powder firearms. And I think, like, the future is, you know, really bright for them, to be honest. Being completely unregulated helps a lot. I think in a lot of ways the military-industrial complex has stifled creative innovation to such a degree by excluding anyone that fucking actually is creative from their entire endeavor, that they've set us up for a giant fall. And it's, you know, it's because of this shit that I'm talking about here, where, like, I'm worried about fucking designing black powder firearms to survive the nuclear wasteland. And I think that's a better use of my time than designing U.S. military firearm. I mean, look at In-Range TV, Russell Fagan, and all that shit. Like, say what you will about that, but, like, they're actually playing around with shit and trying things. Who does that for the U.S. military? DARPA. What has DARPA been doing in small arms development? Basically nothing. This is why SIG is doing the shit that they're doing, is because they're seeing that basically if they innovate anything at all that works at all, they're going to win. The part that gets to me is that the original idea of an M16 was to build the cheapest, most cost-effective piece of shit on the planet. Just spew them out. That's the point of that gun. And, like, KE Arms running their whole fucking, like, budget build in a fucking match. I loved seeing that. And the reason I love seeing that is, like, I have 2 rifles. They are both budget builds. One of them has some cheap parts in it that I need to replace, that I wouldn't trust that gun. The other one's a Palmetto State Armory upper and a KE Arms lower, and I would trust that thing with anything. And this is where, like, I think it matters who makes your parts. And, yeah, to some extent, it doesn't matter what bolt carrier group you buy for an AR-15, but, like, the Palmetto State ones are made in America. The other one I have is a Bear Creek, and I don't know where that thing's made. And it has signs inside of it that make me go, eee. It's never not worked. But it's at the same time, I would probably not put it on first line duty. As a result, it's kind of like a home defense gun. It sits around with a red dot and a dual mag on it. If it gets through more than 2 magazines in its life in a firefight, I'd be amazed. It's good for that. Our entire gun industry is a bunch of people jerking off in circles with $30,000 this and $20,000 that, and like the Fluxrator people. Go look at the Fluxrator people. Where like they made a thing that should be like the Fluxrator chassis should be $300. In my opinion, maybe $500. $500 is being generous. And now they've made this like goofy drop culture thing where everyone's fighting over them, so their $500 thing sells for $1,200. Okay, then you have people like Knights Armament that, you know, have taken the idea of making an effective budget carbine and they've made the best possible one. And like, I don't care. You get that the original idea of the gun was to be cheap as fuck, right? There's so much in the gun industry now that's just a bunch of fucking charlatans and money-grubbing fucking... I don't know. They aren't really interested in freedom. They aren't really interested in fucking America. They aren't interested in making us a better fighting force. They aren't interested in a lot of things. And this is in a nutshell what's wrong with the gun community. This is what's wrong with America. This is what's wrong with the gun industry. As I see it. The fact that I feel better trying to develop black powder projects because I might actually be able to get them made. That saddens me. But like in reality, I think that's the truth. Like, if I ever fucking do anything on my own, it's gonna be in a fucking black powder. And I don't think anyone is ever gonna fucking, you know, hire me to design their fucking shit, basically. Which is really sad. Most people's minds don't work like mine. Like, I can see the entire mechanism I'm talking to you about, the takedown black powder thing. I can see it in my head. I don't think people get how fucking torturous it is not to be able to bring that thing in your head to realization. And that, in a nutshell, is why we drink. I'll see you guys later. Also add that there ain't no laws while we're drinking claws. I found that in my fridge. Since we were talking about alcohol earlier, I drank it. See you guys later.